Bring in Francesco Rizzuto. He's a professor of European law at Liverpool Hope University. Welcome to you, Professor. Good to speak to you again. First of all, what was your reaction when you saw those numbers? They're down quite a bit, but why do you think that is?
I was actually surprised, frankly, but down 35% in the eastern and central Mediterranean is quite a significant drop. Of course, the new avenue now is the eastern Atlantic, if you like, the Canary Islands in Spain. So I was surprised. But obviously, the media has been dominated by the tragedies. So, in a sense, whilst the real figures have dropped, because the media reports the terrible tragedies that do happen, it's almost counterintuitive. You still think it's going on in a big way, but obviously the figures have dropped.
You say that you think it's still going on in a big way. I know that the people who are opposed to mass illegal immigration will be saying right now, because the numbers are down, it doesn't mean they're not still big, and that 100,000 illegal immigrants every year is over time is going to still have a big impact on society. I mean, what would you say to that?
Well, I would say that the far right, and we've seen this happen in Germany in recent weeks, and of course the reaction of the German government, which has actually annoyed lots of other governments. We are also, by the way, going to see a similar kind of reaction in France with the Barnier government, which will rely on the far right not voting against it in a censure motion. So unfortunately, those who really simply don't like immigrants, 100,000 is 100,000 too many, and they're going to try and capitalize on that. And obviously, parties in the center, in particular, and on the center right, including in Germany, of course, the SPD, which is supposedly on the center left, will react and tighten up. They'll try and respond to the far right and the extreme right by the rhetoric of being tough on all of this, but also, of course, paradoxically, they then have to be tough on movement within the European Union, which causes all sorts of tensions with other states. So the Poles are pretty angry, the Italians are pretty angry, and so is everybody else. So this is a reaction against populists, anti-immigrant populism in Europe, sadly. But that's the price of democracy, I'm afraid.
Again, the argument that will come from parties on the political right is, and maybe this is a good thing from their perspective, I'm not sure, but what they have an issue with is that it's illegal. That's the key word, the illegal immigration. They say it's okay if people go through the right channels to get into the country. They don't like people just turning up uninvited, which most countries don't, well, none encourage, but most don't usually permit. So could this be a good thing? Could a drop in illegal immigrants mean that maybe more people are going through the correct channels?
I'm not so sure. Well, some channels have been opened up. I'm not sure that there's been a wholesale change, if you like, a relaxation, the putting in place of procedures to, if you like, facilitate, how can I put it, regulated migration. I know that in some countries, Italy would be an example, where they've set figures of allowing people in and so on. But the picture is still a little bit fuzzy there. I think that the real way of trying to manage this process is to actually come to agreements with the countries from which these poor people are coming from. And that's an extremely difficult task, as well as, and this has happened, as well as getting the frontier states, the states, if you like, the other side of the Mediterranean, from which these poor people try and leave. So agreements with Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, such as it is, to try and make sure that these people don't depart from there, as well as investing in them. But again, the picture is still a little bit fuzzy. We need to see how things play out over the next 2 or 3 years when the new asylum policy in Europe, which of course will be interesting from a British perspective on how we in the United Kingdom actually relate to what the Europeans are doing. And I think the Labour government realizes that the English Channel problem has to be solved somewhere further along, if you like, not only in the states of departure, but the Mediterranean as well.
Francesco, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thanks for your input. Francesco Rizzuto, Professor at Liverpool Hope University.